Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. It seems I should have logged in before. Yes. So I'll just do a bit of introduction to myself and Nelson, my colleague. First of all, I have to say, lovely city, lovely people. Everybody is so nice. You kind of feel embarrassed to be here. We've got some colleagues we're working with, and they're just lovely, and I'm sure all of you are. Some of them are pointing, and they're definitely lovely, yes. I'm an engineering manager at SmartPension. So as being a engineering manager, one of my main jobs is to look after people, to make sure people are looked after, and essentially through that we can deliver. And obviously I'd like to introduce Nelson. He is the energy. So if I'm the boring one, he's the fun one, I have to say. You'll find out. Nelson is a product owner. He used to be a developer, knows Ruby very well, among a lot of other languages, I have to say. So SmartPension. My understanding is that not everybody knows what SmartPension is, or pension is, essentially. So quickly, SmartPension was set up in 2014, and that is because there was a Pension Act of 2008, which the government established in the UK Parliament, and through that, the company looked for a platform for a smaller set of individuals who are looking for pensions. Overall, UK is the third biggest market as far as capital is concerned. We created a solution for there, and now we are looking for like Ireland as a second step, but that kind of gives us the ability to move into more changes, which is more generic, into Australia and US, which are the second and the third biggest markets in the world. So what is pension? Does everybody here know what pension is? Or okay, great. So one of the main things about pension is it's looking after people's future. So people and their future is quite dependent on us, and we try to enable them to be able to use the technology. Now, why are we using technology? And going back to saying a startup, etc., even though we were a startup 5 years ago, we're a huge company right now. Some of the biggest banks in the world are actually now chasing us to collaborate with them in different markets and so on. So we're not a small player anymore, whereas at the beginning we had to beg people, individuals, to work with us. Now it's the other way around. Essentially, the main reason is that the financial organizations are quite dated. Their technology is geared up towards very, very big companies. Think about companies with tens of thousands of individuals working for them. So that makes it difficult for those companies to look after small companies. What are the small companies? They're self-employed people. Let's say a carpenter, a builder, somebody who's just one person or two people. So we created a technology which is cheap, which can be used by everybody. So this is the basis of what our company is built on. In the big financial organization, the infrastructure that they would have, it caters for at least 10,000 people from a company joining. So you can imagine if one person wants to join, that's kind of impossible to cater for those people. The other side of it is that, believe it or not, even though this is about people's future, etc., some places like Hong Kong, technology is quite advanced, but they hold the information and the records about pensions of people in actually physical files in a storage. So if that building is set on fire, what's going to happen to people's future? There is no backup, there is no duplicates. So as I said, technology helps us to give a better solution, and essentially the employees can interact and find out more about how much they have, how much they can get out of, and if they need to contribute more. A lot more interaction that anybody else in the market offers. Now, because of this, as I was saying, so just 1 year ago exactly, we had 33 people in the engineering team overall. Now we've got just 88 engineers alone. So we've got managers, we've got scrum masters, etc. And originally we started in London. Now we've got London, we've got Croatia, we've got 2 offices in Poland, and a great team here in Minsk. I'm just going to talk a little bit about kind of the application that we have. So we've got different kind of portals. We've got the employee, employer, advisor, and then a CRM for these to interact with. At the center of all of these things is an API. This API enables all of these devices. We have some cool stuff that, well, to some of you guys might not be cool, but when you go to a corporate or to most people, they find it really cool. Things like Alexa or Google Home and so on, that you can actually ask them how much contribution have I made or any of those kind of questions. Now, to get to more details about what our infrastructure and code base and so on looks after, I'll hand over to Nelson.
Thank you very much, Ali. Hello, I'm Nelson. Hello, Nelson. All right, so this is the infrastructure we have for our application. So basically, most of, our dynos or all of our instances for the application, they are living in Heroku. We use Heroku not only for our production instances, but also for the review apps that every bit of code change would use to be tested. At the same time, we do have, for all of our logging and monitoring, several integrations with our API server. In this case, it will be New Relic, Rollbar, Papertrail, and even Datadog. One of the ones I find the most useful is our Rollbar. It tells me a lot of information about when we have found little buggies here and there. Our database is stored in AWS. Of course, Heroku lives on top of AWS, but we manage our database directly in there. Now, based on this, let's say, this Cloudflare firewall or this layer, we can actually open our API, which is all living here in Heroku, to not only our own applications, but our partners. So what Ali was explaining, we have a central API where all the number crunching happens, with all the logic is there, and then all of our own clients in JavaScript or on React or any of our front ends will interact with. But also, since we have a public API, partners, which are basically other software, like all of these companies here are like payroll software that will need to integrate with a pension system like us, will just directly connect to our API server. Now, we have implemented for the last 3 years, maybe I'm going to try with that one. What about this? Yeah, I was like up and down, I couldn't. All right, now we have implemented for the last 3 years the concept of a unit. So basically every action we have in our code base lives in a peculiar unit. Like, for instance, let's imagine, I don't know, the creation of an employee, or the update of an employee, or the destruction of an employee. So every unit, every action lives in an individual, tiny little world. That way, the code is very maintainable, is very debuggable. You know exactly where to look for the piece of code that you might be affected or not. And you can test each unit individually. So we have a massive directory of units for every action of every resource, but in our opinion, it's very clear, very well divided, very well abstracted. Well, obviously, our units via the queries go interact with the database, and that way our controllers in the application are very basically empty. It's just like the name of the action, the call of a unit, that's it. That's our controllers are really, really clean. At the same time, we interact between units or models via subscriptions. We interact with third-party providers via adapters, like, for instance, Go Carless, which is our payment system, or Signable, which is a system that allows us to sign digital documents. So all of that happens via adapters. We also have mailers, and of course, the Active Admin, that is a system that we offer to the other employees of the company to, the back office system, if you like. Monitoring, I don't know, I think we have used everything, like every possible option of monitoring. We just get it. We need to know when there's a problem. So there's all over all the places. Obviously, there are ones that you rely most than the others. Me particularly, I spend my life in Rollbar. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. I'm kidding, like once a day, twice a day maybe. But it's very useful. Now, regarding data warehousing, we have all of our database in AWS there, but we offer internally to the other departments of the company data monitoring or data reporting via Periscope. And all of our data warehousing department, which is an actual team, will take care of that data being maintained and being reported as best as we can via Periscope. Regarding security and authentication, we are using OAuth 2. We started using simple API keys, but we started migrating each of those applications gradually, because it was very problematic, to OAuth. So right now, all of our clients are using OAuth to interact with our API, which includes not only our own clients, but also our partners. This is our wonderful CRM. And by wonderful, I mean it's very used. It could be improved, don't get me wrong, but it's very used. It's a very powerful tool that we offer to all the departments of the company. Now, funny enough, we have expanded the CRM a lot from what the actual Active Admin gem is from Rails. But obviously, we keep adding stuff to it just to, enhance it, which means create more bugs, right? But it's working well. It's working well. No complaints so far. That was a big lie, by the way. We do have a DevOps team. At the moment, it's only 5 people, but they do take care of all the expansion of our platform. So as Ali was mentioning, our platform is right now in England, as in the UK, and then Northern Ireland, which is an instance we launched a few months ago on the, let's say, initial state, and should be fully on production in the next couple of months. But we are expanding as a platform. So the DevOps department will take care to make our whole platform scalable, expandable to any new client or customer that we will encounter. And that's very interesting, that is what has given us so much opportunity to be very careful about the code we develop, because we need to be thinking about our code to work in every possible country in the planet and try to abstract our functionalities as much as we can. And that is a very lovely challenge, which I personally like. And these guys are amazing on that, by the way. All right, continuous integration. So, of course, we have our lovely GitHub. Typical GitHub flow, if you like. Every developer creates a PR. You put as many lines of code as you want. Ideally, 1 line. I'm joking. I think it was you, Dimitri, because I keep telling Dimitri, Dimitri, if it was for me, I would put 1 line of code per PR. 1 line of code per ticket, and he found this PR of mine that has like 1,000 lines, and he showed it to me. Nelson, what are you talking about? Anyway, it was full of JSON though. So we create PRs, and it would go. But you create your branch, you create your PR, you post it on the channel, and you need 2 approvals. Ideally, you're going to get them immediately, but that's never going to happen. You're going to get a lot of comments and like, "How dare you? Are you out of your mind?" Joking. I'm completely joking. People is really friendly in a SmartPension. But yes, honestly, you want as many comments as you want. You want your problems on the code, your faults, your bugs to be found. It's better than actually deploying a bug, right? So when someone finds a bug and someone finds a problem on your code, I'm like, yes, I'm not gonna kill myself after I deploy this and everything goes and blows. Again, another joke. So then we have Semaphore. We have as our CI server to test our to run our test coverage. We have 97% of test coverage, I believe, in the backend. It takes a long while. I believe it's 20 minutes now, and even after we parallelize it a lot. So there are thousands and thousands of unit tests running there in every PR, in every deployment. Until that has finally happened, then it will go to production. If you have problems then or failing tests, again, the circle goes over and over and over until you finally get your pull request. By the way, it needs to be 2 at least pull requests approval. It used to be just 1, but then the team has grown so much that I think it was a good idea. It was a suggestion from the developers actually to make it a minimum of 2 pull request approvals. So in general, our development process, we are trying to make it as sophisticated as possible. I know that might imply a lot of bureaucracy, but we are trying to respect everyone's responsibilities the most that we can. So it would all start at the very bottom, at the very left, where our subject matter expert, I always forget that, our subject expert will give us information. It will tell us, all right, so this is how we could satisfy this functionality for whatever country. This is what we need to make sure we produce. Then it all starts from a whole design process, which involves user experience teams, especially if it deals with the front end. So they will study how to make it more readable, more humanized to the user, more understandable for every country in the planet. Believe me, that's a challenge. They come up with those designs, and then the whole product department will realize, okay, is this really what we want? Is this, do we want to, are we moving too farther away from this context or this country or this, so basically they try to standardize the actual product that we're trying to deliver and make sure we're not moving away from any or the other, let's say, point of view. Then the whole engineering starts. It depends how complex is the epic. It will start by the architectural team, which is a team that their goal is to make sure that whatever solution the engineering team produces is aligned. Because at this time we have how many? 8 teams? So imagine if you don't have cohesion between those 8 teams, it could become a mess. So the architectural team will make sure that there is cohesion between them, and the solution is, let's say, as efficient, as good as you can possibly do it. Then once that is, let's say, approved, not approved, the architectural team is not there to approve or dictate. They just want to give the best observations that they can, or make sure that everyone is doing something that would not collide with other teams. Then again, the whole process start of engineering. You got all the dev work. If there's something that is not good, we just restart the whole thing. We do it. We respect a short feedback loop. We want our work to, every ticket you write, you want that to be deployable on production anytime. So you can get immediate feedback of whatever we are producing. So if it's something wrong, it goes back and restart. Sometimes we say, okay, there is something missing here, let's deploy and create another ticket. If it's not critical, if it's critical, no way, that needs to be restarted. So there is this, we have a right as an engineering team to define that and say, yeah, that could go to production even though it's not fully working, or no way in hell that goes to production, let's restart it. So it doesn't need to always restart, is my point. And then once it's deployed, then the UAT work starts, which is great. If we don't do UAT until it's actually deployed to production, because it wouldn't make our development process slower. And now the social bit, working at Smart is the coolest thing in the world. Oh my God. I sound like an idiot. Honestly, I think I've been working here for, it was 4 years on September this year. And can you believe next year, I know, I can't, someone's gonna make that public next week or something. But it's so cool, there are so many benefits. For instance, 2 days ago, no, yesterday, the whole engineering team went for a whole treasure hunt event. So there were like 10 teams all over places in London doing treasure hunts. And there was one liquid or beverage involved as well, I believe. So and that is like once every 3 months. Once a month, we just go out for drink, just because whatever. Like when those guys were there, we had some liquids, I believe so. There was a certain volume, very above the average anyway. And that really builds a lot of our, the friendship, the interactions, pretty cool. Friendly team, no blame culture. If a specific PR, let's say, introduce a little buggy, let's call it a little buggy, it's the team. There's no a particular person to blame. It's the team who did it, it's the team who approved it, it's the team who reviewed it, it's the team who tested. And to be honest, we're just there to help each other. No blame culture. And then in that case, everyone is not only responsible, the whole team, for whatever goes wrong, but also obviously for whatever goes right. And it's a lot more that goes right than wrong, so don't be scared. We believe feedback is a miracle. I know as cheesy as that sounds, it's truth. It's really important, not only on your code review, but also on your daily working. To receive feedback is something really important. That'll make us better people in many levels. So we are always constantly in this situation when we're open to feedback. It is a blessing, and we love that a lot. We have different meetings for different structures or different layers of the team. So we have the tech leads meeting, the architectural meeting, product meeting, the whole engineering team meeting on Wednesday. It used to be on a Friday, and we would all go to the meeting drinking, especially me. But it was a lot of fun, and it's pretty cool because you actually get to enjoy the people you work with. So I believe socially, my honest opinion, is best place I've ever worked. Thank you very much.
So that's correct. One thing that's important, I think I have to add that one of the most important things for us is quality, not how much code you write, what is the quality of the code. We take our time. One example I can give, maybe I cannot give this who it was and so on. A few weeks ago, something came to me that sales department have sold something. We have to make some changes. And if we don't do this, we will lose a great amount of money. When it came to me, it was something like, okay, can you get the engineers to do overtime and so on? And the quick answer was no, we're not going to do something very quickly. I know it will hurt. I know we have promised people, but it's not engineering's fault that people do not understand software development. Now, we're quite blessed that the CEO, the managing director, everybody at the top really values that. So they supported us. Something that somebody could have gone to the database, made the changes there and so on, and would have been like a few days work. It had to go through the whole life cycle and make sure it's done properly. I have to say that after this, we knew it's going to have risk, it's going to cost us, and through the investment that was lost, it cost us £120,000, which for anybody is a lot of money. For a startup, is certainly a lot of money. And part of that was something that engineering can teach the rest of the company. You get your side wrong, we are not responsible because we will deliver quality. And I think that was the main thing. Now, going through the team structure, just quickly, this is roughly what we have. We have team leads, we have engineers, we have QAs in every team. That is kind of, you've got product owners which look after the product and the engineering. So product owner is Nelson, myself, engineering manager, look after the people, look after the overall project. I report to head of engineering. We collaborate with architecture, with product, with product delivery group, UX, and they all report to the CTO, and essentially they are governed by the strategists in the company. Now, I think, well, there are quite a lot of cool things that happens. Some of the stuff that I could think of right now was recently we did a hackathon. As part of the hackathon, the team that won it, they were able to deliver this panel of, so every team, so we have actually 11 teams, every team at least based in London, they could have this screen which would have different panes, and you know, you could show for every team what's going on. If everything's green, production's green, you know, and different teams have implemented different things on that board. Actually, one of the problems in London is always trains and which ones you're going to have. One of the teams have put the train timetable integrated into this, so you can actually see the train timetable. And some people, at least outside engineering, find that one the most useful one. We are looking, for example, in February next year, we are bringing Arkansas. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're quite a specialist in domain-driven design development. So they're coming to our office, and we're getting actually people, even some of the members of our Minsk team, other places, all coming to London to participate in the few days of training, because it is very important for us to enable people to be able to do their jobs and do a good job. There is a training budget that people can spend on learning things and so on, but for example, this DDD training was something that somebody said, can I get a few people to put their training budget together to get this? And we said, actually, you know what? This is going to be beneficial for everyone. So we will go and try to make sure you learn these things. The other side that we have invested is that we try to get trainees and train them up, because we feel that is our social responsibility to make sure that we can train people. So we've had 7 Ruby developers who joined us. Most of them have come from other careers. So some of them were lawyers, some of them were salespeople, and they thought it's cool to be a developer. And they're not young. Most of them are not young, but they're now having a career in software development. We are now in the process of doing the same thing for JavaScript developers. And finally, another example is of helping the Ruby world is there is something called Railgirls. I don't know if anybody here has heard of them. So Railgirls is one of our colleagues in the company runs this, Maria. And obviously, unfortunately, I don't know Ruby personally. And I wanted to join, and they told me you have to be a girl or under 18. I'm neither. I can't pretend to be either. So actually, this is happening next week, and they've created a T-shirt, the whole team, about 30 or so of our engineers are going there to help people to teach girls Ruby. Now, I think I was just going to show you a few examples of the social activities. Now, I know that sometimes we try to invite, I think in this case, we had our Krakow team joining us. So this was going on the boat. Again, one evening of going on a boat in London and drinking beverages, what do you call it? Liquids, yes. So this is actually last night. So we have a colleague who is Lithuanian, and one of the teams that he was in, the whole team created a mask So the center one is actually a guy, it's not the person himself, is a mask that they've put on because the whole team pretended to be, actually they called it Team Russian for some reason. Now, there was, I can show you a lot of stuff that happened because everybody was posting a lot of images. I can show you what the office looked like today morning, actually. So this is last night, people having fun. Today morning, empty office. We accept that, people have fun. Our Minsk team. So this is when they came to London. A few of them, 3 more have been added. You can see Nelson being there, obviously. And I don't know, some of you might be familiar with some of them here as well. We have, I guess, 2 front-end developers and a QA person who's joined us after the guys came to London. Now, our collaboration with EPAM, we started, I think, in June this year. We have currently 9 humans that are helping us to grow. We're looking really to grow to 20 people and essentially 30 people. Right now, engineering is about 100 people. For mid next year, we're looking at about 150 people that we would need. If we could have 150 people right now, we still have a lot of work to do. And you think, okay, you've created the platform, it's done, but there is a lot of cool stuff that's going to come. And things like doing the domain-driven design and so on will be integrated. Even though we're collaborating with EPAM, there is a good understanding of what does the delivery mean and who's looking after the delivery. We treat everybody as smart employees. We don't think of people from, especially our nearshore offices in Poland or in Croatia or Belarus, that we would say, okay, these are different teams. As far as everybody's concerned, we're all one team. I think Nelson mentioned that we don't have a blame culture. You can actually approach anybody within the company. You can say whatever you want. If it's reasonable, it will be done. Bring up your ideas. If you think there is a way to improve something, definitely somebody will look at it. And there are something that Nelson was mentioning, meetings. A lot of people in the company says meetings are redundant. We don't look for meeting. Some people call them agile ceremonies. Other stuff is about getting together and communicating well. We do encourage people from Minsk to come and visit us in London and vice versa, other offices to come and see us. Well, they come see us in London or we come to the other offices and make sure we collaborate and work together. If there are any questions now or later, both me and Nelson are happy to take. Yes.
Ali, Nelson, thank you very much for the presentation. Very glad to hear. As you're very passionate about the quality on the slide that was shown, the delivery pipeline kind of, there was a unit test step and there was a user acceptance. Any other quality gates that you have? I don't know, integration tests, performance, security, any other aspects?
Sure, thank you. So we have several tests. Obviously, the unit testings are the biggest number. We do have integration tests, which are mostly request tests. So we test our endpoint and make sure that whatever that endpoint is supposed to return, it does. Sorry? Yes, all of those requests, all of those tests, unit tests, front-end tests, model tests, there are not many model tests, we don't care much about that because the models are empty, honestly. It's all about the units. All of that are part of our CI. If one of those, just one of them fails, there is no way in hell your PR is going to be, not even looked at. We're really, I mean, test-oriented. We do have some what we call smoke tests that are supposed to happen or to test the front end to make sure that the front end calls properly the back end and make sure that the whole flow goes correctly. But that is only happening for like the very basic happy path because what we call a smoke test, or the test you would do to your client to call the backend, will take a lot of time. So we don't want to make our CI too slow or too, because again, what we want is continuous integration, continuous deployment. Actually, a year and a half ago, we were lucky to win an award in what is called the DevOps Award in London, because we were the platform with the highest number of daily deployments, which is in average today 15 deployments per day. And we were competing against HSBC or big banks in London, and we beat them. It was 10 of us, and it was a lot of fun. There was also a lot of liquid that helped to increase the fun. So, and there were balloons full of helium in the awards, and then after all the liquid, we were just like sniffing the helium and just talking to each other. It was so funny. Anyway, back to the important point. A lot of deployments per day, and that one of the reasons we achieve that is our test coverage. Even though it's important, we do not go over the top. The QA is supposed, part of the role of QA is to do whatever they could consider as, I forgot the term, regression test, sorry. And that's part of the QA work, only if they consider that necessary. We used to have, yes. So you as a QA, if you consider valuable, do regression tests, you will do it on your own as part of your work. We used to have a suite of regression tests that was also maintained by developers and QA, but we realized that the amount of work that will be invested in such, again, I forgot the word again, regression test, wasn't valuable. It would take too long. It will delay too much the deployment, and we thought the balance is not right. It requires a lot of work to maintain those tests for very little value. So what we do, if the feature is really critical or complex, rather than going over the top with the test, we do many things, like we hide them on a feature flag, or we only deploy on a specific environment. We let the external parties test it, evaluate it, come back with feedback, and then we continue, rather than going over the top with the test. But the unit, internally, the actual units of the code, those are 97% covered. Security, yes. So for instance, a couple of months ago, we had a pen test, which was executed by an external agency in London. They hammered us very hard, and there was one potential thing which fixed very quickly, but yeah, it was actually very positive. And again, it was an external agency who was like kicking us everywhere, trying to like get the app down. They couldn't. We're like, oh, sorry. All right. Any other question?
Thanks. You're trying to start in different countries, right? Yeah. But how the differences in legal sphere? I mean, like pensions, they are maybe calculated in different ways in different countries, and how do you implement it in the code?
Very good question. Thank you very much. So one of our teams, actually many teams are actually handling with all of this. Differences between countries' legal requirements or of the way the country should manage pensions. So, for instance, I'm just going to talk about the difference between England and our Northern Ireland. So, for instance, the age of your normal retirement in the two countries is the same, 65 years of age. But the minimum or the youngest you could retire is different. So we started right now to, not right now, for the last 3-4 months maybe, do what we call platform configurations. So there is this new layer that we abstracted all those behaviors that in this country will happen this, in this other country will happen this other. Those are not the most elegant solutions, obviously, because there is a bunch of condition, if here, if there. We did produce sort of a library. It's actually a library, a bit of a mix-in, I believe, which is called the platform setting. So you simply ask a question, in this platform, can I do this? And the library tells you, yes, you can do it, or no, it's not going to happen. That's one way to deal with those abstractions. The other way we deal with it is we are producing models in the application that are applicable, potentially, at least in England, in Ireland, it's working. So we will see about the next country. We're going to cross that bridge when we get there, though. But we're hoping that these abstractions we're doing in the models will work for every country we deal with. So, for instance, this lovely team will start, probably in 2 or 3 weeks, a new epic called schemes. So that is an abstraction of the actual legal entity of a pension. So, which is perfectly an answer for your question. So, right now, there is like a whole scheme in the whole platform. And it does this, it does that. Now we will abstract a model. And that model, the scheme, is comparable with a document, a legal document that would say, in this country we do things this way, in this country we do things this way. And the rest of the application will ask or will be configured. A bunch of values will be defaulted by the scheme, and then it will just be natural. Actually, that will help us, that will allow us in the same country, you could support different things, even though it's not the usual law. So that's how we're dealing with it. It's very it's very nice, very nice. I get so excited when I talk.
Okay, thank you for the question and answer. So, anyone?
Hello guys, thank you for your talk. It's not a technical question, but when can I use your platform here in Belarus?
Okay, we're having a conversation with the president in a couple of hours. I'm joking.
Okay, thank you.
I'll tell him you're the first one to be put there. Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else want to ask?
Yeah. Well, thanks first of all for your exceptional informative presentation. Great, thank you. So, and what I'd like to ask, on one of your slides in regards of lambdas on our AWS, so did you consider them prior to Ruby being acknowledged on AWS, or did you use any other language prior to that?
So, is the question if we use a different language before Ruby?
Yes, on the AWS lambdas.
But the answer is, well, the whole application, thank you, the whole application is now having several languages. At the very beginning, when it just started, and I'm talking 4.5 years ago, it was plain Rails. So back-end, front-end, you know, slim front-end files, not even an API, just, you know, the usual Rails controllers. The concept of an API was non-existent. It was when the actual integrators, so, which was a very, I mean, we were in a really beneficial, a very lucky position because Sage, the green one on the top, is the biggest payroll software of the country. So when we provided them, we were the first company that provided an API service to them. So they basically drop all of the customers in our platform just by integration. And we were just like sitting and knitting, right? And they were like a bunch of post requests every bloody second. That's when we decided to move to an API-oriented application. But at the very beginning, it was a simple Rails application. No API integration, of course. So we moved from a Rails backend front-end to an API in Rails and a front-end in Ember.js. Then we moved, now we have Ember.js, we have React for the mobile application, but that's just a wrapper. I mean, there are other projects being developed on React right now, but not yet in production. Now, the Lambda situation, it hasn't been fully, I mean, it's not been developed to an extent. It's used mostly for certain testing and for the Alexa, I believe, unless it's not fully used, but we hope that when we move to domain-driven design, probably make more usage of Lambda. But that is a project probably to start next year.
Well, exceptional, great. Thanks for your explanation. So your project is like an ideal agile one, which gets developed with time. Thank you.
Yes, thank
Cheers.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. So, anyone else? Okay, Alex.
Hello. Also, thanks for your presentation. Quite interesting. I have a kind of technical question. On one of the slides, I noticed that you use Sidekick for background jobs. Do you think it's reliable enough? Do you think it won't be fire in Hong Kong?
We have
someday.
Sorry.
Well, what I'm trying to say is it's backed up with Redis in memory storage. So, do you think it's reliable enough?
We had to migrate to. Thank you. We had to migrate from the standard Sidekick to Sidekick Pro after probably a year and a half, because we realized we needed all the features, the management of different queues, and fancy way Sidekick Pro does it. Not a single issue so far, to be honest. And we are moving to asynchronous jobs more and more. Probably every day we try to get rid to any synchronous stuff just to decrease the load of the actual request. Well, it gets populated using Redis, so our Redis instances, it's getting bigger eventually, like every some months. Not a single issue so far. If anything, on Monday, we run this super heavy rake task to produce historical data for all of our employees. And I'm talking millions and millions of records. We did it via a Sidekick queue with like probably 10 concurrent threads. And we did it during the day, and it was absolutely fine. Like, it's usually what we do. And since the very beginning, it's been Sidekick. Not a single. I mean, I'm sure at some point given something has failed, but no.
Okay.
My answer, I consider, is reliable.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your talk. Separate kudos for the Ember frontend. I really like it. Quick question. So you're doing CI and CD, as far as I understand. Do you use feature toggles, or you use atomic features like rolling out? Like, we've got a feature, we're rolling out everywhere, or just coding, hop, toggle, here you go.
We use a combination. Usually every feature that we deploy should be in production in every platform immediately. Now, we are building right now to produce a deployment pipeline that, depending on the platform, some features will be developed right now, and for the different platform will be deployed right now, and for the other platform will be deployed 2-3 days later. That is kind of the flow we're trying to produce right now, but that is actually require an internal development of that pipeline management, if you like. At the same time, we have feature flags. So depending on the platform, the feature flag might be enabled or not, and the feature will be used or not. On top of that, we have some restriction, as in permissions or roles configuration. So for some people, this feature might be enabled. For others, it won't. So those are the 3 ways we manage with deployment pipelines. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And the second one, sorry. You mentioned units as a service object in your application. Yeah. So that based on home solution, or it's like some gem you're using?
home solution.
Okay.
It's been evolving, if I'm honest. It used to be called a library called service, literally. It was wrapped in a whole transaction, and it cost, at the beginning it was absolutely fine, but we started to realize different issues with it, so we improved it and make it more configurable. Then we move away from it. It's been an interesting journey, but it was home developed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. Next question.
Hello. I want to ask about how you manage errors in production. I mean, you have so much deployment during the day, and in the same time you have you need to review code from others. So, do you roll backs or have fast fixes?
Thank you for your question. Just to let you know, we do not write bugs, only features request. I'm kidding. It's a very good question. Thank you very much. So before, we used to have a branch called the development branch. So there, every PR that was approved by the code reviews, we just will put it there. Or I believe it was code review, then QA, and then merge into the development branch. That created this stock of PRs. So in a day, it could be 5, 10, 15 PRs mixed all in a single development branch. And some lunatic, usually it was me, will merge all the development branch into production, I don't know, at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. We realized that was just madness. You have no idea all the conflicts I have to sort before doing that deployment, and a good portion of the time, merging that to production, it was kaboom, bugs everywhere. So we moved away from the concept of a development branch, and that's why each PR works as an individual development branch, all of them branching from the current master. That would allow us that, obviously, when we find a bug, we just revert. So the policy is, if it's a bug that it could be fixed immediately, let it happen and fix it, probably when it's a configuration situation or whatever. If it's something that will require development, even if it's just a line, even if you are completely sure what you need to do to fix it, revert it, first in Heroku, because it only takes seconds. So you revert it in Heroku, then you revert it in the code, you merge it to master, then you work on your solution, and you drop your PR again in master, but fixed. That way you decrease to a minimum the time where the bug is flying around. We revert. At this point, it's just revert. Why? Because you know it was this PR because the last thing that was merged, and the bug is perfectly clear. It's related to that file. So that's very good. We have this continuous integration. We have all these individual PRs being merged into master. I was saying, I forgot. Yep, that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
We also don't merge at Friday
Yeah. Yes, at Fridays at midday, we have this reminder on Slack. No mergy Friday started, so now don't even dare to merge anything. Yeah, because luckily enough, this company doesn't require support on the weekend, so the Friday 5 p.m. has arrived, you just forget about work, and you don't want to spend the weekend fixing issues.
So thank you so much, guys, for your talk, for time. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.